On the menu of this program, nutrient contributions, vitamins, and eating behavior. Who hasn't sometimes worried about the quality of the food they're eating? It's true we've all been sick from food at one time or another, but most of the time it's due to our own excesses. Too much of a good thing, as they say. Each person has specific nutritional needs. It's up to us to strike our own nutritional balance. Every day we eat foods which provide our bodies with the energy nutrients they need to function. Our body grows, it expands and renews itself. In addition, it has to defend itself against all forms of aggression. To enable it to perform all these tasks harmoniously, its nutritional equilibrium is essential. Generally speaking, the foods we eat are natural substances of complex composition. Digestion decomposes them into nutrients, that is, into molecules the cells can assimilate directly. These nutrients are chiefly proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. Proteins are fundamental components of all living cells. They serve to build, maintain, and repair body tissue. They include many substances such as hormones and enzymes. Proteins are complex nitrogenous macromolecules composed of one or more chains of amino acids. Some of these amino acids are what we call essential, as the human body cannot synthesize them and must therefore find them in its diet. Other nutrients, carbohydrates, which include starches and sugars, are the major energy sources in our diet. They are the combustibles best suited to muscular exertion. Quickly assimilated, they release their energy rapidly. There are two types of carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates, such as glucose, are rapidly assimilated. Complex carbohydrates, such as starch, are digested more slowly. Lipids, or fats, are the most important part of a living organism's diet in terms of usable energy. Lipids are composed of fatty acids, which, together with proteins and carbohydrates, constitute the principal structural material of living cells. There are two types of lipids. One, lipids contained in foods derived from animals. And two, lipids contained in foods derived from plant life. Foods can be broken down into 5 main groups, which provide us with lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins, and which are also sources of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. The combination of these 5 food groups supplies the body with all the elements it needs to perform at its peak level. The first food group consists of milk and dairy products and is characterized by its high protein and calcium content. Dairy products can, to some degree, be substituted for meat, fish, or eggs due to their high protein content. For example, a half a liter of milk equals 2 eggs, or 100 grams of meat or fish. It is recommended that dairy products be eaten at every meal in the form of milk, yogurt, or cheese. The second food group includes meat, fish, and eggs, and is another important source of protein. Moreover, these foods are a good source of iron the body can absorb easily. Fat intake is quite variable. On average, non-fatty fish, white chicken meat, and liver contain less than 5%. However, tuna packed in oil or salami contains about 20%. Meat, fish, or eggs should be eaten once a day, but it is not necessary to eat them twice a day. The foods in the third group, vegetables and fruits, have a high water content, approximately 75 to 95% of their weight. Their energy value, usually low, depends on their sugar content. Vegetables and fruits are composed of fibers, which swell with water in the intestine. These fibers speed up gut motility and prevent constipation. Vegetables and fruits also contain numerous minerals. Vegetables and fruit are the main sources of vitamin C and carotene. It is healthy to eat a daily portion of raw vegetables, salad, and fresh fruit, as well as a serving of cooked, fresh, canned, or frozen vegetables. The fourth group is made up of a wide variety of foods, all high in complex carbohydrates and fiber. It includes cereals, bread, potatoes, and grain legumes. They are all high in energy and are slowly digested. Cereals and dry legumes, such as lentils or beans, are also a good source of protein. It is recommended that we eat a serving of potatoes, pasta, rice, or grain legumes and bread with each meal every day. The fifth food group, fats, is composed of very high energy compounds. The level of fat content varies depending on the food. For example, the fat content of cream is 30%, butter and margarine 82%, and oil 100%. These fats are sources of essential fatty acids and vitamins. To keep our fat intake down, we should avoid eating too fatty dishes in one day, such as cold cuts, heavy sauces, fried foods, and cream pastries. By drawing from all the food groups for our 3 meals every day, we ensure that our body gets the variety and quality of nutrients it needs. Until recently, the health officials in industrialized countries thought their citizens had sufficient food to meet their nutritional needs, but they were wrong. Indeed, recent studies show that even the wealthiest nations have dietary deficiencies, in vitamins for one. Vitamins are organic substances, essential in small amounts for the normal growth and activity of our bodies. The body does not synthesize them, so we have to get our vitamins from the foods we eat. Vitamins play a part in all the biological reactions that occur within each cell. They are activators, or catalysts, for the transformation of the carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins we ingest, and facilitate the release and use of the energy they contain. Without them, our bodies would be unable to benefit from the constructive energy nutrients in our diets. In addition, vitamins help to neutralize free radicals. The metabolism produces these highly reactive, oxygenated molecules continuously, especially from the oxygen we breathe. Free radicals attack essential structures, such as the DNA. They will also attack the proteins and lipids in cell membranes. Cells have complex reactions to defend themselves against these activated oxygen derivatives. For one, they call upon the vitamins which have an antioxidant effect. An insufficient vitamin intake may in fact be linked to certain cancers and heart diseases. Vitamins fall into 2 major categories: water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins include the B-complex vitamin group and vitamin C. B-complex vitamins are present in most foods, but particularly in liver, meat, and eggs. B vitamins play an essential role in the transformation of lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins. Vitamin C, or ascorbic acid, increases our resistance to infection and fatigue. It also plays an important part in many tissue, cell, humoral, and hormonal metabolisms. Vitamin C is found in fruit, especially citrus fruits, and in raw green vegetables. Fat-soluble vitamins include the A, D, E, and K vitamin groups. Vitamin A counteracts night blindness, weak eyesight, and aids in the treatment of many eye disorders. It promotes growth, strong bones, and healthy skin, hair, teeth, and gums. It is found in milk, butter, eggs, liver, carrots, spinach, and certain fruits. Vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, helps prevent rickets by properly utilizing calcium necessary for strong bones and teeth. It enhances the digestive absorption of calcium and regulates its elimination through the kidneys, leaving the body only what it needs. Vitamin D is produced in the deeper layers of the skin by ultraviolet irradiation, but this source may be insufficient. So we should increase our intake of fatty fish and dairy products, egg yolks, and liver. Vitamin E is a biological antioxidant that neutralizes the active forms of oxygen and thus preserves and enhances the activity of vitamin A. It also protects cell membranes and extends the life of red cells. Vitamin E is found in vegetable oils, almonds and hazelnuts, green vegetables, eggs, milk, and butter. Vitamin K is essential for blood coagulation. It is found mainly in such foods as liver and leafy green vegetables. The intestinal bacterial flora produces it as well. All vitamins are fragile compounds and are particularly sensitive to light and heat. Foods are likely to lose them easily, mainly due to the treatment they're subjected to. Water-soluble vitamins, for example, are often lost in washing and cooking water. Vegetables and whole fruits should be washed quickly under running water. The best way of cooking them is to plunge them into boiling water. This deactivates the enzymes that degrade their vitamins. We should also avoid overcooking or reheating them too often. Large-scale vitamin deficiencies were responsible for the historic plagues, which no longer exist in the industrialized world. However, many secondary deficiencies persist in certain groups of people, such as adolescents and the elderly. Young people tend to eat a lot of junk food, and older people often have digestion problems. As a rule, a very balanced diet will provide the body with all the vitamins it needs. Looking good, pumping iron, staying forever young. All motives that influence our eating habits. But the single most important motive ought to be our health. Most adults maintain the same weight all their lives. They have achieved a balance between their food intake and their energy expenditures. Diet is the principal regulating agent of that energy balance. It must therefore be carefully controlled. Maintaining a proper diet depends on several factors. These factors are related on the one hand to inner hunger signals, and on the other to external stimulations that trigger ingestion behavior. In the nervous system, the hypothalamus, a tiny area located at the base of our brain, plays an essential role in regulating our appetite. The hypothalamus controls our sensations of hunger and satisfaction and regulates the intensity of our pleasure or displeasure in eating a given food. A great many hormonal substances are also involved in this regulation process. From a physiological standpoint, a drop in glycemia, that is blood glucose, sends out the hunger signal the hypothalamus perceives. This inner signal is associated with external stimuli, which correspond to the sensory pleasure related to the appearance, taste, or smell of the food. The appropriate response to these two types of signals is the ingestion of food. The sensation of satiety determines the size of the meal and when it should be concluded. It appears even before the food has been digested. At the same time, the feeling of fullness is accompanied by the reflex production of insulin. Insulin, a hormone, helps to regulate glycemia and also plays an inhibitor role in our daily food intake. Maintaining a stable body weight, avoiding any variation in fat reserves, is the result of a well-balanced energy program. People have to adjust their energy needs according to their individual constitution and level of physical activity. If our intake exceeds expenditures, the surplus energy is stored in the form of fats. By contrast, if our dietary intake is not sufficient, the metabolism calls on its reserves and we lose weight. The body expends energy in three ways. The first type of energy expenditure is linked to the basal metabolism. It is the minimum amount of energy required to maintain vital functions in an individual at rest. That energy is spent in heart contractions, breathing, digestion, and cell activity. For a man who weighs 70 kilos, the average value of that energy expenditure is estimated at 1,700 kilocalories over a 24-hour period. This represents approximately 65% of the energy ingested. The second type of energy expenditure is related to the body's thermoregulation, which intervenes when we are exposed to cold or have just eaten. For a balanced meal, the digestion, metabolism, and storage of the nutrients consumes 12% of the energy ingested. The third type of energy expenditure depends on physical activity, which varies greatly from one person to the next. It fluctuates between 15 and 20% of a person's total energy expenditure. That ratio has decreased in recent decades due to a reduction in physical work. Another physiological mechanism comes into our dietary balance, the maintenance of a constant adipose mass, or fatty mass, during the 24-hour cycle. During the day, our fat reserves go up as a result of a lipid synthesis and storage process. At night, however, the body draws on the fats as an energy nutrient. So a balance is struck between these two phases, and the result is a stable level of fat reserves. Changes in lifestyle have brought changes in eating habits. Modern societies have introduced new eating patterns whose effects may well be harmful to the body. For instance, snackers eat without thinking or paying attention to the quantities of food they're ingesting. They often skip meals and risk disrupting their appetite regulation systems. Others may be subject to sudden, uncontrollable cravings for sweets. Binges like these can tally up to 1/3 of a person's daily caloric intake. In developed countries where there is no shortage of food, the most common dietary problem is excess weight. At the same time, society and the media pressure us to be thin, presenting thinness as the only acceptable body image. This causes some people to go on restrictive, eccentric, and sometimes dangerous diets. There may in fact be a connection between the media's overriding concern with thinness and serious eating disorders, such as anorexia and bulimia. While a well-balanced diet is crucial for our physical well-being, the social interaction of a meal shared with others may be just as much so for our mental well-being. Did you know that during adult human life, we ingest approximately 25 tons of food and drink 35 cubic meters of water, and yet our body mass only varies by 10 to 15 kilos? We have nature to thank for that spectacular part of dietary intake and energy expenditure, but we can give her a little boost by adopting healthy eating habits.